I should be able to walk into a building. And as I'm walking into the building, I should be able to sign into the application on my phone, hit add to wallet. And by the time I hit that first turnstile, that credential number that was pushed to my phone and pushed to my watch should also live in all of the other systems that govern the usage of my identity. And that, let's not kid ourselves, that is very difficult to do. And that, again, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, that is why I joined Alert Enterprise, because in my opinion, nobody is doing a better job, has more connectors, has more libraries available.
Welcome back to another episode of Locked In on Security, your go-to podcast for everything security related. Brought to you by Alert Enterprise, the leaders in AI-powered physical identity access management. Here we are, another episode of Locked In on Security. Today, I am joined by no other than the new VP of Mobile Access for Alert Enterprise, Matt Bennett. Happy to have you on the show. We're talking about maybe the most disruptive thing in physical security. These things. All of a sudden, the phone is changing how we get in and out of workspaces. And you're the person that has now joined Alert Enterprise to help us grow that. And so I thought, let's start off a little bit about your new role, what that entails, and why'd you make the jump from one of the largest players in the industry to Alert Enterprise? So welcome.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm super excited. I've been very fortunate to work for a small number of companies in the security industry over my career, from the manufacturing software side to the access control hardware side, arguably the largest player in the access control space. But there's an opportunity that lies in our industry right now that is just absolutely dominating every conversation that we have, and that's mobile credentials. And that's what I've been living and breathing for the last 5 years prior to joining Alert Enterprise, building out ecosystems of partners who are helping stitch all of these systems together. This truly is an integration game now. And there are so many players like Alert Enterprise who are capitalizing on this opportunity. And I've known Alert Enterprise for many years, been partnered with Alert Enterprise for many years. And when this opportunity presented itself, it was too good to pass up. The opportunity that's in front of all of us right now and in this industry is tremendous. We've never seen anything like the consumer demand for mobile credentials. So to find a company like Alert Enterprise that is all in and, really with bringing me on board, reaffirming their commitment to accelerating the journey towards mobile credentials, I couldn't be more excited.
And for us, we're excited to have you on board. You're really providing us a vision and a roadmap of where this is going, not only for the industry, but for Alert Enterprise. And you're right. These mobile credentials, these mobile phones are, not only the most disruptive thing in consumer electronics and technology, but they are for physical security. But that being said, our industry, specifically around physical access control, doesn't move very quickly. And they're still clinging on to the plastic badge, the plastic credential. It's been like that for decades. So your opinion, why has it taken so long to move this industry forward to mobile credentials? And is there something holding back some of these folks who are kind of lagging behind?
Yes. I mean, the answer to all of those questions is yes. This, for those who are not familiar with the physical security industry, which I assume everyone watching this podcast is somewhat familiar, this is a legacy industry that has clung to the way we used to do it. This is how we've always done it for years. And there's a lot of fear of the unknown. Well, if we can get our customers past that fear of the unknown and we can paint the picture of what's possible with this mobile device, it unlocks, pun intended, so much additional value that never existed with a plastic card. There's really three pillars of value that we look at here: the operational efficiencies, the security benefits that come along with it, and then the user convenience that comes along with it. But it's important to frame this topic in the right way. A lot of organizations look at this purely from a numbers game, and we have to change that conversation, because mobile credentials will lose against plastic cards every single time if it's strictly based on dollars and cents. But the opportunity that's there is to reframe that conversation and make sure we are talking about the experience, the convenience, the security, patching some of those loopholes that exist, the vulnerabilities that exist with access with plastic cards today. We can mitigate so much of that risk with mobile credentials. But our industry has to do a better job about talking about outcomes and painting the picture of the total journey to get there. This is not an apples to apples, and it cannot be an apples to apples comparison between plastic and mobile. But if we get the conversation right and we frame things in the right way and we paint the picture of what that beautiful utopia looks like at the end, where everything is integrated together, there is no swivel chair. There is no man in the middle who's copying credential numbers and values between access control systems. And that's what Alert Enterprise does. We build the automation that synchronizes all of this together. There is tremendous demand for this right now, and it's there. Let's not kid ourselves. It's not like there's 2 or 3 companies who have fully adopted mobile credentials. There are hundreds and hundreds of organizations around the world who have completely removed plastic from their lives, and that it's not an unattainable target. It's not something completely unachievable. It is something that is absolutely tangible and absolutely can happen inside of an organization.
Well, I mean, and that's absolutely true. And if we take a step back outside of our industry, the move to mobile has already shifted, right? So when we talk about secure transactions for payment, for travel, for even identification, we've seen states in the United States, move to a pure digital ID on your phone. So we are not the guinea pigs trying to move this forward ourselves as an industry. Many other industries that are highly regulated, like finance, have moved towards a mobile-centric approach to their transactions. And so I feel like there's some security in that, pun intended, that we know that this industry isn't the first, and that also the giants behind this, the tech giants behind this, have invested heavily into moving this forward as part of their ecosystem. And speaking of the giants, we might as well name them. We know who they are: Apple and Google. They've been moving into the access space for a while now. They've been interested in it and have invested heavily into it. Is this, in your opinion, a David versus Goliath scenario where we're now up against big tech, or are these innovators going to coexist with us as Alert Enterprise and others out there? Who wins this race? Is this a race that only one wins, or are we going to all work together in this?
I think there's different answers depending on who you ask. I think the big tech giants, the Apples and Googles, came into our world not understanding how complex it is. It is not a black and white scenario by any means. We've used the example of payments and transit, hospitality and ticketing. Those are more cut and dry. Those types of deployments, those end customer organizations who use that don't have the complexities that physical security has. And I don't think that the tech giants actually realized that coming into this. However, through this partnership that we and others in our industry have had with these companies, we've been fortunate enough to educate them on what the physical security world actually looks like. And I think it's really opened the eyes of Apple and Google and others. But I think let's be real, I think it's also opened our eyes as well. The physical security industry has always built one-size-fits-all solutions and never put themselves in the shoes of the end customer and never really considered experience. And that, I honestly think, is one of the most refreshing takes that I've seen in the last few years, is the push and, almost being forced to put ourselves in the shoes of those who use our products and to build and tailor them towards a delightful experience.
And by experience, just to interrupt, by experience, you're talking about the user of security solutions having a positive experience, or a delightful, the word you used, experience. Just go into that a little bit. Why is that such a different concept for folks?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's 2 ways to look at the user experience. There's the onboarding journey what it actually takes for me to get that app on my phone, sign into that application, make sure I'm authenticating against my company's business systems, and then getting that credential on my phone, making sure that that's frictionless and, again, is a delightful experience. So that's one half of it. The other half then is actually using it at a door, is actually tapping in and using that credential and making sure that we are, again, providing something that's not only equal to what plastic provides, but is better than what plastic provides. And that's where other modalities like Bluetooth come in addition to NFC. They give us read range and distance and gesture controls and things that plastic cards never were able to do. But it's that idea that manufacturers and integration companies have to actually think about tailoring their product for the end customer. Again, it's been forward in the physical security world, but it is a very refreshing take for us. But it's not easy. It's challenging. But that's where we come in. That's where companies like us come in, and we build the connectors, we build the middleware, we build the automation engine that really powers the whole provisioning process and everything behind the scenes. Because without us, the journey simply becomes a lot more challenging. Without us, the end customer is waiting hours, days, weeks sometimes for someone to respond to a ticket, take that credential number that's generated, copy and paste that credential number into an access control system, make sure it propagates all the way across the board. That's a really poor experience. I should be able to walk into a building, and as I'm walking into the building, I should be able to sign into the application on my phone, hit add to wallet, and by the time I hit that first turnstile, that credential number that was pushed to my phone and pushed to my watch should also live in all of the other systems that govern the usage of my identity. And that, let's not kid ourselves, that is very difficult to do. And that, again, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, that is why I joined Alert Enterprise, because in my opinion, nobody is doing a better job, has more connectors, has more libraries available. So it just makes our engagement with the end customer even easier because we have these pre-built integrations that are already done.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts there. One, you also just described the experience of the security practitioner. So security teams themselves, it actually makes it a better experience for them to manage credentials. Eliminating the manual tasks of inputting data into a spreadsheet and then going to 3 different screens to make sure that same data is entered to the different related and integrated systems. It also allows them to be quick to be able to provision, deprovision, access, and then they can focus on the things that they actually want to do, which is keep people safe. And it allows them to be more strategic rather than being an administrative department. That's the first thought I thought about when you described that. Second, this also then really goes back to probably our main tenet as a company is that these worlds of digital and physical are merged, they're converged, and this is an amazing example. Maybe not one that people think of right off the top of the head, but this is a convergence, a security convergence, an IT physical IT convergence experience where now we're getting people into physical spaces through an IT centric device and software and platform. And that I think is just a beautiful way of people understanding how our worlds are coming together.
I would argue it's the biggest convergence of IT and physical security has ever seen before. We've talked about this for years, for decades, of the stakeholders changing and who's actually in the driver's seat of these digital transformations. But when you unpack the building blocks of mobile access, you look at all those Lego pieces that need to be put together, a good majority of them are IT controlled applications, whether that be multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, HR systems, IT business systems. Something has to stitch all of that together. It has to make all of that work. It has to coordinate with all the different stakeholders to ensure that that there is a seamless end-to-end process. At the end of the day, the end user doesn't care about the complexities that go into this. They want to hit that add to wallet button, and then they want to go walk up to the reader, and they want to hear it go beep, then they go through the door. Well, we can do that, but as we know, the devil's in the details, and there's a lot of work that goes into orchestrating all of that behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, what an opportunity. What an opportunity, I think, for security departments to, provide that experience that we just described, both for the end user, the workforce, the employees, contractors, and visitors. I mean, imagine this as a digital transformation initiative for their organization, they now become part of a bigger conversation of the business. They align with the business and how to make great experiences for the employees. So good for retention, good for recruiting. But also this becomes an efficiency and a modernization conversation. I just think that for security practitioners, from what I've seen lately, they're starting to understand and be open to that, to say, you know what, we need to go beyond guards and guns. We need to go beyond just, I heard you say the other day, make the black box turn green and open a door. And we need to think a little bit bigger about the impact security can have on business. And this is a great one.
Yeah. One of our good friends in the security industry always says that it's no longer about keeping the bad guys out, but it's making sure that we're making sure that the right people end up at the right places at the right time, and that they are still fully authenticated and providing a high level of security and assurance throughout that journey. And that's what access control has really transformed into over the years. We talk a lot about mobile credentials. They're sexy, they're cool right now, but at the end of the day, it's really about making sure that we are securing spaces and providing frictionless access throughout a facility.
Mm-hmm. So you said, another thing you said, it was that this is complex. It's a lot more complex than some of the other transactional stuff we see in finance, et cetera. But would you also agree that, in terms of the use case, it doesn't always have to be the biggest, broadest implementation in terms of connecting everything? You can start with a simple, or at least a straightforward use case for mobile credentials, and we do deliver on that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there is no one size fits all here. You can this could be a bite-sized journey along the way. Where most organizations begin is with a desire to move to mobile, but again, questioning, there's a lot of uncertainty as to what goes into it. So we'll build a proof of concept, we'll build a demo, whatever you want to call it. Usually that gets adopted by 5-10 people in the C-suite. Once the C-suite buys off, once they see how incredible this experience is, it begins to start trickling down through the organization. But I will say most journeys are simply about making that black box go beep. Where things become even more interesting, and again, where the opportunity lies for companies like us, is extending that experience beyond the readers that are on the wall to all of the other scenarios and points inside of a facility where users are using their plastic cards. So examples would be turnstiles, elevators, EV charging, gate arms, time and attendance, secure print. I mean, think about, for those listening,
lockers, storage.
Think about where you're using your plastic card in your facility today. I guarantee it's more than just the box on the outside of on the wall, on the outside of the building. Now, when we extend that experience and update those terminals and integrate to those third-party systems that allow the mobile credential to work, now you have something really special. When a user doesn't have to think about that disconnected experience of I use my phone here, but I pull my plastic card off the lanyard over here, now you have something that truly is game-changing and different.
Okay, well, I'm bought in, but there are definitely still skeptics out there in our industry. I've had some really lively conversations around the need for visual identification from the badge. It seems to come up almost every single time. And the folks that seem to be lagging on the most, they say this is the main obstacle why I cannot, and for some, never move to mobile credentials. I need to be able to visually verify that Matt is Matt when he walks in the building. And I look at his badge, which is also a credential, which is also a visual ID, for me to be able to say, you are who you say you are. Therefore, I don't need to stop you. I don't need to question you. You can move on. Or at least if I do stop and question, I can see and have that visual reference. So what do you say to that person who's watching right now? Say, I am skeptical because I need visual identification easily and readily available so that I can validate.
And herein lies one of the barriers to adoption for mobile credentials is, again, that legacy mindset and way of thinking. I challenge the very premise and notion of the idea that wearing a photo of myself around my neck is an effective deterrent to anything whatsoever. How many times, even if I am wearing it, how many times is it turned around backwards? Is it facing the wrong way? Is it being worn in a different part of the body from somebody else? I think there are two solutions to this. There is a process way to solve this, and there's a technology way to solve this. Process would be, and what we're seeing a lot of organizations do, is transition that badge away from having any sort of credential or technology on it, and just print a user's photo on a piece of plastic and have them wear it if that's what you choose to do. If that gives you the level of comfort that you really are mitigating a risk, great, no problem. We can support that. We endorse that. But stay tuned. What we are working on to Alert Enterprise is something really, really, hopefully game-changing. We're working with a couple of partners in the ecosystem to try to solve this problem with technology and provide a way that using the handheld device to actually authenticate against the user. So more to come on that.
That's exciting. I mean, and I can understand there are some industries that this becomes a really important part of their verification and part of their security protocol. So that's exciting. I look forward to being able to talk about that in some time soon. So that's a disruptive, innovation within mobile credentials. And overall, the pace of disruption is accelerating because of this technology. I've seen this evolve within mobile credentials in months. We see another innovation, another feature, another capability, another integration, and another capability to connect through the experience. Do we think because of this pace of innovation that big tech is used to, the traditional physical access control players, are they doomed? Are they doomed to fail because the innovation pace is just going to outrun them? Or can we find ways to stay relevant and a part of this disruption and innovation and be the ones helping to drive that?
I don't want to sensationalize. I don't want to say anyone's doomed to fail here, but there is absolutely a world where some of the legacy players who are, I don't even want to say not embracing it, who are actively fighting against mobile credentials, cloud computing, they absolutely will get left behind, and they will find that their market share and their position becomes compromised in the coming years. I think, from what I've seen, big tech is certainly frustrated a bit with our industry and just, again, how slow it is to adopt new technologies. And no one in our industry is immune to this. From the major giants in our industry to the large integration companies like us, it is challenging. Apple and Google and others are putting out features at such a rapid pace, it becomes really challenging, especially for us as an integration company, to absorb those new technologies, wrap those into our go-to-market offering. And I think the biggest opportunity that exists for us is to try to normalize the feature set across the board. So it's no secret Apple was a year to 2 years ahead of Google launching their access solution to the market. So naturally, they're going to have a more comprehensive feature set available, a feature set that may be missing from one platform offered another, and try to, I don't want to say hide that the differences in functionality, but try to normalize the difference in functionality so that an end customer does not have a disjointed experience if maybe they carry an Android device as their personal device and an Apple device as their work device. We want to try to provide as much synergy and harmony between the platforms as we can, but that's a constant struggle. And as I said, no one in our industry is immune to that. We've never seen, we've never been fed as much innovation as we have been in the past few years.
Yeah, and I think that's where a company like Alert Enterprise, well, we are agnostic to the various components of the ecosystem that a customer may have. And everyone's unique. As you mentioned that earlier, not one size fits all. So therefore, having platforms that can adapt, connect, and create a seamless experience to your environment, to your stack, I think is super important. The second thing that's important is helping people along the way. You mentioned sort of that crawl, walk, run type of approach. You can start small, and then you can start connecting more and more and more. I think that's also important in terms of scale, being able to scale from small to enterprise and be able to take a customer on that journey is really important. And as innovations, as new capabilities come online, you're able to seamlessly bring that into the platform and into the experience for that customer. It doesn't become, if you think about traditionally in security, version control was a nightmare. A version control between one platform and another platform that was integrated was a nightmare. But now with cloud computing and the way that we converge IT and physical, that becomes a seamless update. And I think that allows people to think differently. Last thought about that is that this disruption is going to be felt by those who have been playing the game of proprietary closed systems the most. And isn't that sort of the sort of where the rubber meets the road, because there has to be a shift in both development, but also the way you sell to connect other systems rather than trapping people into your closed ecosystem and having a customer for life only be able to choose you because they're trapped, not because they choose to, but they have no choice. Would you agree?
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, that's the physical security industry is the most proprietary industry that exists. And the irony is we pretend like it isn't. We talk about interoperability and openness, and even those who are creating the quote, interoperable standards, unless those standards are broadly and widely adopted by all, it still becomes proprietary again. And, listen, we talk a lot about commoditization. There's a lot of buzz right now about new credentialing standards coming to market. I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful, but I'm also a realist. I'm going to be dead and buried in the ground before there is one credential standard that exists that works across every reader in the world. That's the industry. That's the decades and decades of influence our industry has had. It takes a long time to unwind that. However, our approach at Alert Enterprise is very, very simple. We can offer choice. And that one word choice, it becomes incredibly important, and it really memorializes everything that I'm trying to do with the product. Everywhere that we want to take this product, we want to offer choice and flexibility. Choice in terms of your handsets, whether you're an Apple user, a Google user, a Samsung user. Choice in terms of credential technologies. There's many that exist out there. We support all of the largest credential technologies. Choice in terms of readers. There's hundreds and hundreds of readers with thousands of different variances and firmware versions. Again, that's the opportunity that exists for us, is to have libraries of support. And then as we peel that down another layer, what we also offer is choice in terms of the different business systems that an end customer may have, whether it be very IT-centric systems, your ServiceNows and your Workdays, your Salesforces, to your IT platforms, to your HR systems, to your access control systems. We support over 20 different access control integrations where we're constantly adding more and updating versions as well. And then we extend the choice all the way, again, into the ecosystem we talked about earlier, where we're talking about smart lockers and vending and all of these different experiences. One thing we won't do at Alert Enterprise is we are not going to influence a customer's decision-making or buying process around their access control hardware. We want them to choose whatever is best. But what we will offer them is pre-built libraries and integrations, and we will make the actual journey of walletifying that hardware as easy as possible. And I think that's the best, and that's probably the most impactful thing that we can do in the market right now. While we let all of these other companies fight it out over credential standards and technology, what's going to be the new interoperable standard? You know what? Whatever it is, we're going to support it, and we're going to support it.
So if I hear you right, you don't have a lot of hope that there's going to be within your lifetime. You said you're going to be dead and buried by then for a standard across our industry. But what about the big tech players? So Apple, Google, as well as the components manufacturers within these hardware to standards. I mean, they are at least providing some certainty, and there's a path around their standards for the way these things work, the way these things communicate. and other standards within that. At least that's helping us. Would you agree?
I would, and again, let's take a step back. Let's look at it through their eyes. They're coming into a market and a world they didn't understand, and they're realizing, wow, there's a lot of choice. There's a lot of options out there, whether it be from the credential technologies that exist. And so you look at Apple, you look at Google, they support the major credentialing technologies that are out there. But let's take a journey and let's step into an ancillary industry and let's look at smart home and home automation, for example. Look at the influence that Apple and Google specifically have had over Thread, have had over Matter. I do think that's a leading indicator where we're going to see them exert their influence in our industry. There is an upcoming standard, and I use standard air quotes. There is an upcoming framework that is being discussed amongst all of these large organizations. Again, in the desire and the hope, and it's a commendable effort that they are making, and I do hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that there does become one credential standard to rule them all. But they are trying to champion this new interoperable open standard, and it'll be interesting to see where that goes over the next few years. There are some who are very resistant to it. There are some who are fully on board and supporting it. Again, our stance is going to be we will support whatever comes out of this, and we will be one of the first to integrate to it. And we'll, again, provide that choice to our customers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let us know what you guys think. Do you guys think there's going to be a standard? Are you interested in a standard? Or as we talked about, is it more important than just to have a platform that supports you along that journey as things change, that anything can connect to each other? So interesting discussion. Let's move a little bit to the green discussion. So part of the value proposition around mobile credentials is that it's a more sustainable solution, more so than plastic cards that get lost, get replaced, tried to be recycled. But there's for lack of a better term, a carbon footprint to that. That's one value proposition. You talked about also that if we compare just from a price point perspective, that's not apples to apples. So, just come back to a little bit then. If I'm a security practitioner, I'm interested in this, but I need to make a business case to my executives. What is the incentive for the enterprise to switch? Convenience, you mentioned as one. Sustainability might be another. Anything else to help that security practitioner create that business case for their company?
Yeah. I mean, I think the understated one here is the operational efficiencies that are garnered. So, I mean, you don't need to, again, if we tie this back to sustainability, there is no shipping of cards back and forth from the manufacturer to the end customer, who then prints them, who then ships them to the end user itself. That's a very inefficient process, inefficient journey, and very carbon heavy. So there's the operational efficiencies that are garnered there. There's no more trips to the badging office in this remote first world that we live in, where users may come into the office once a week, once a month. They can be sent a self-service link. They download an application, they snap a photo of themselves, and they hit a few buttons, and they have a wallet credential on their phone ready for them when they make the journey to the office. There's also the ability to remotely deprovision those credentials as well. There's the lifecycle management piece here. There's no more opening tickets with the HR department who terminates an employee in one piece of software. Then that generates a ticket that then requires the security practitioner to deactivate that user in the access control system, which then has to propagate and flow down to all of the various hardware devices. All of that can be automated. Not only can be, all of that is on as part of the process. And again, that goes back to the conversation we were having before about that influence that big tech has. When they came in to this world, they took a really hard look and they sat down and spoke with a lot of very large customers, looked at their processes of how they're deploying plastic, and they saw the inefficiencies, and they saw what we're seeing today, which is where technology can help that. And that has met, I've been there since the beginning of the wallet-based credential journey. And the first few customers were very resistant to the idea of integrating the single sign-on and the multi-factor. And why do we need to add all of this? We never had needed this before. Why is Apple and Google forcing us to do this? But it's all in the spirit of trying to build the best user experience possible while not compromising on security and leveraging the same business applications we use to log in to Outlook and Salesforce and all of these other systems. We use those same technologies to secure the provisioning of the credential as well. So I think there's no lack of reasons why, but again, we'll boil it all down to one word, which is value. We must talk about the value that mobile brings, and that is what end users and that's what decision makers want to see, is what value am I getting for my investment here.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's interesting. You just mentioned, SSO, MFA, and these other what have become standards for digital access. So there is an example of where standards, not necessarily a credential standard, but at least identity and access standards that exist in IT today, and how that influences physical security with our ability to do that. And identity and access management has been an IT cyber mainstay for decades. And there's a lot of standards and a lot of agreements on how to do that. And so now that becomes part of an identity focused and identity centric approach to physical access, which I truly believe that that's what our industry needs.
Going back to the convergence conversation we were having earlier, there are so many leading indicators that should tell us what the next few years of the mobile credential journey are going to look like. One of the predictions I'll make right here is I think we should stop talking about the word credential as much and really lean into the idea that it's a user's identity. And a credential is just a facet or a subset of the user's identity. And their identity is anchored in so many other varied systems and functions. We're a piece and we're a part of that, an important piece, but we're a piece of that user's identity.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So with that, as you sort of project forward, we're recording this Thanksgiving week, 2024. So we're in that season. We're in that season of holidays and getting together with family and friends and thinking about this year and then projecting forward into the future. As you look forward to 2025 and beyond, give this audience a little bit of insight into what you see as the next 5 years. Will physical access look anything like it does today? Where is this going? And if you can put a little bit of your future looking self, where are we going to end up in the next 5 years?
Well, I think in the next 5 years, I don't think things will look dramatically different. And the primary reason behind that is the sheer number and the sheer amount of hardware that exists out there. And it becomes difficult to update and upgrade that hardware. But the hardware manufacturers and providers are looking at a new technology right now, ultra wideband. And for those who are not familiar and don't know what ultra wideband is, I'll bet you do and you don't even realize it. If you have an AirTag from Apple, you know what UWB is. If you have a fairly modern vehicle where you can walk up and the vehicle unlocks, you know what ultra wideband is. If you have an Apple HomePod, as I do behind me, ultra wideband. What we're going to see is UWB technology brought to access control. And why do we want to do that? Because UWB technology includes something called fine ranging and intent detection. So what that practically means in the real world is it's going to allow companies to build even better user experiences than exist today. The Star Trek approach of walking up to a door and the door automatically opens is not sci-fi anymore. It can absolutely be done. And it has been done for years. There are a few things holding it back, but the idea behind the ultra wideband access control experience is it's the concept of still having a digital credential on my phone. We still need to build that wonderful experience around getting that credential on the user's phone. But once the credential is there, the credential makes a handshake to the nearest reader. And then based on my angle of approach and my gait, how fast I'm walking, do I stop along the way? What's my journey like? Then some piece of software, and again, that's our opportunity here, builds a score, a confidence score of how sure is it that I am approaching that reader. And once that confidence score hits a certain threshold that's high enough, you can pass that credential back to the reader authenticates, it does its magic that it already does. And then when paired with the right door hardware, can open the door automatically. Again, Star Trek experience. Doesn't sound too sci-fi when you unpack it that way. And that absolutely will become a reality within the next few years. The only reason it's not today is because the tech giants haven't figured out how to monetize UWB yet. Once they figure out how to put a commercial and pricing structure around it, the hardware manufacturers are ready to support it. So I think that's probably going to be one of the most impactful changes. But again, when you take a step back and you look at the last 30 years of advancement, every piece of hardware innovation is an iterative journey. Everything, we talked about the disruption curve earlier. Every few years, hardware succeeds itself in terms of technology. This is just the next piece on the disruption curve will be these UWB-enabled readers. I think that's going to be really, really impactful. And then I think the last thing I'll leave you with is something we talked about earlier, which is the standardization. And we're not just talking credential technologies. I think the even bigger opportunity, and I say that from the Alert Enterprise perspective, is making integrations easier. The integration game is not an easy game. It's difficult. We have a team of engineers that are constantly building integrations to all these various systems, testing them, validating them. Every single one of them uses a proprietary API, proprietary connections. We're fortunate to have built our organization in a way that we're good at that, and we can be efficient at building these integrations. But that is a huge barrier to entry for new players trying to enter the access control market as well, is building these integrations that before wallet-based mobile credentials were a nice to have. Now they're a requirement. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see some of these like-minded manufacturers coming together to start discussing, can we potentially adopt some standards? And again, if we look at ancillary industry, if you look at the video industry, you look at technology, even something as simple as OnVIF. OnVIF, to all of its challenges, certainly had a vision and certainly has potential. I think there's a lot of potential to see where the access control industry can go in terms of making the actual integration journey easier. But I think those two things are really going to set the pace for what the next, say, 5 years looks like in the access control industry.
Yeah, I would agree. And I, just to further that point, I just feel that from what we've seen from our customers and some of the use cases that have come up, this again, the continuing of converging between IT and physical, we're going to see that become even more, embedded. We're already seeing that with, major platforms like ServiceNow, like Microsoft, and there's others out there who want to make the experience be holistically addressed within their environment, right? So that there's one platform, there's one screen, there's not multiple monitors that you have to, take your office chair and roll it back and forth. Where if that is your platform of choice, all of the experiences, both IT and physical, will reside within that. And then it's companies like Alert Enterprise that power that connection, as you just mentioned, with those connectors and integration, but more so just with handling that data in a modern way. AI is helping that. Cloud computing, of course, is helping that. And our secret sauce is really, we are a data provider that takes data from really, really disconnected systems and make them all look the same, so that your experience seems like they've always worked together, but yet the work behind that is the key. And I
actually just want to expand that piece. We talk a lot about, in fact, we're talking exclusively about mobile credentials right now. Maybe my view is a bit biased because I've been living and breathing this world every day for years and years now. But I really do think, and I really do believe that making that black box go beep is the bare minimum that a company needs to do if they want to. It's absolutely table stakes if a company wants to compete in this industry, be successful in this industry. And again, that's why I joined Alert Enterprise, because of our ability to impact so many other downstream systems. There's so many stories that can be told and experiences that can be built around, again, taking that identity and seamlessly moving it between platforms and between systems. I think there's so much opportunity that exists right now. I'm so excited about what we offer, what our platform offers, and educating the market more around what we can do around extending that experience from not only the best tap-based experience at the door, but making sure that we're stitching together all of these various third-party systems and seamlessly moving the user's identity across. That, I think, is what the future really looks like.
That's exciting, Matt. Super excited. So for those who need to get a hold of you, if they're looking to take that first step on their mobile access journey, what's the best way to get a hold of you? And we'll put some of your information in.
Yeah, I mean, you can we'll throw my email address on here. I'm very active on LinkedIn, on social media. Going to be at a lot of events next year. Really going to be out preaching the message around mobile credentials and what we do. Stay tuned for ISC West. It's going to be a really big show for us. I'm the easiest person in the world to get a hold of. Please do reach out. I love having these conversations around mobile credentials and where the industry is going. And stay tuned. We have some really exciting things that we're working on in the lab right now that should come to market over the next few months.
Sounds great. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll talk soon.
Great. Thanks, Willem.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on the latest episodes. Share this episode with your network and engage with us in the comments below. We'll catch you on the next episode.